In this lesson, we'll explore how we can sketch another caricature of Michael Cera by emphasizing specific facial features. So here is our caricature of Michael Cera that we sketched in the previous lesson. So just to reiterate, this entire course is an exercise on basically how to see things differently, okay? Because there's more than one way to sketch or draw or paint a caricature. It all comes down to what facial attributes, what physical attributes do you want to emphasize, to draw the viewer's attention to, okay, to really call out? And are those the right facial features to call out to begin with? And that's where you want to start off by observing and examining your subject, okay? So we started off by kind of pointing out that he has a pretty large, kind of roundish head, very striking large eyes, and an interesting shaped large mouth. And so I feel like we kind of played those up nicely over here. Let's shift gears now and still kind of maintain the idea of a large head, maybe push the mouth a little bit further, but let's really play up his nose. I feel like he has almost kind of a bird-like, beak-like nose, not to sound insulting in any way. My intention with all of these caricatures is to create something that's silly and humorous. Okay, so let's go ahead and start on a new sketch. So I'm just starting off with the same kind of building block structure, just kind of this large balloon-like shape. Okay, he doesn't have a really strong jaw, so I want that to kind of taper down into his neck. Okay, so that's kind of my foundational kind of simple shape and form that I like to begin with. And I really want to draw attention to this nose. I want to make it a lot larger. So I'm thinking about just how much real estate do I want to take up inside this balloon shape. So something kind of like that. Some additional oval shapes there. And then for the eyes, I don't want them to be as large, okay? I don't want him to appear as alien-like. I want the focus to initially be on the nose. And so the eyes are going to be a little bit smaller. They're not going to be as large, taking up space along the entire side of the nose or anything like that. So kind of having them right about here, closer to that little bridge point right there. Okay, so just kind of some, and he has these kind of almond-shaped eyes. And thinking about just the amount of real estate I want to take up for the mouth, you know, he's got this interesting mouth. It's really hard to say what it is, but I feel like he has a pretty large mouth with a unique kind of smirk sometimes. So I just want to think about how much space I want to dedicate to that. So having done that, I really want to kind of now focus on nailing down this nose. If you look at the tip of his nose, it's very kind of pointed. And the top of his nose, if we kind of come up here, I'm kind of curving these lines right here to kind of allude to the fact that it's very rounded on top, okay? So having that tip, I'm just kind of extending it down pretty low to really kind of give it that kind of beak-like feel, right? Just kind of coming back up here to the eyes. He's got those kind of old almond-shaped kind of eyes. And I really want the retina and the pupil to take up a lot of space this time, just kind of like I did with the larger eyes in the previous lesson, but I just don't want them to be as taking up as much real estate. I just want them to take up a lot of space within these almond shapes. And his eyes are very dark as well. Got very dark eyes. So just kind of filling in that pupil right there. I'm just kind of hatching that in. And again, he doesn't really have a whole lot to his eyebrows. They kind of angle towards the top bridge of that nose. So just kind of working that in faintly. And then just kind of coming back to these lips. He's got a big, just kind of upper lip. And then a pretty strong bottom lip as well. He just has very defined lips. I almost feel like, you know, like you would almost like be smacking them or something. They're just there. So Just kind of working those in, really kind of trying to nail down the form. And I like kind of that smirk right there that he has in the corner of his mouth. I think that kind of gives us some nice asymmetry to kind of play up. And again, just kind of defining the contour, the outline of the face here. I still like the idea of not connecting the chin with the jaw to make it feel like it all kind of runs together there. And then he just kind of has this kind of tuft of hair, this just kind of small little mop of hair just kind of sitting on his head there. But already I'm starting to get a nice feel of this character, and I can, make a comparison just to kind of see the difference, and that's a good thing too, is just make comparisons between your caricatures if you're doing multiple ones. I might take my eraser and kind of clean up a little bit of this kind of messy hatching just right in there. And of course, he still kind of has those bags under his eyes. If you look right here, they're very, very evident. So just want to kind of play those up just a little bit. And again, just kind of keeping these eyebrows just very, very faint. They just kind of point right inward. They're kind of almost like they're almost angled, very much the same as the angle that we have right here on the nostrils. So just very, very interesting. And again, just kind of refining the overall form. Again, just that head kind of going into a small neck. And again, I like the idea, if I were to kind of flesh this bust out, I would have it be just very small in relationship. Again, thinking of spatial relationships and just overall visual contrast, having that bust be very small to the head. Okay, so I might kind of come in here and just kind of lighten up some of these sketch lines in here just a little bit. And the center part of his lips right here, the upper lip, just kind of really kind of defining that. I feel like it kind of points down pretty strongly right there. All right, so there is our second caricature of actor Michael Cera. So just kind of making that comparison once again. So we basically just emphasized and exaggerated specific facial features in a different way, so that we have something that is very contrasting to our first representation. Okay, so in our next lesson, we're going to move on to a female actress that I think will be a lot of fun to sketch a caricature of, and that's Cate Blanchett. So stick around, and we'll see you then.